Men of Reddit, what is the creepiest woman you've ever come into contact with? When I was at a party a few years ago, it was right after I'd had a fight with my then girlfriend, and I was drinking kind of heavily. I'm generally a heavyweight, but I was drinking a lot and fast. This one girl was constantly around me all night, and I was warned by a couple people that she was going to hit on me. Whatever, I can deal with it. This one girl was constantly around me all night, and I was warned by a couple people that she was going to hit on me. Whatever, I can deal with it. She was flirting with me a little bit, and I made sure to add my girlfriend into the conversation topic so there was no misunderstanding. Didn't matter. Every time I went to talk to someone else, I would feel a small butt grab. And when I looked around, she was backing up giggling. Once it started getting not so lightly, I straight up told her to stop. I had a girlfriend. Anyway, later in the night when I was significantly drunk, I was sitting down on a chair while most people were off in another room doing something else. Well, she comes in and I guess decides this is the perfect chance. She sits on my lap and starts trying to kiss me, and every time I move away, she bites my neck. She starts to grab at my crotch too, and even after I hit her hand away, it goes right back. Remember, I'm significantly drunk, so not all my coordination is all there. The last thing I remember is trying to get up to get her off my lap, and then I wake up the next morning in a friend of mine's room on the floor, one of the hosts. I walk out and ask her what happened, and she told me the girl was trying to walk me out of the door, telling the others she was just taking me back to take care of me at her apartment. My friend said no dice and locked me in her room, while checking in on me relatively often, so that the girl couldn't sneak in and try anything. The girl apparently got very upset when this happened and stormed out. We now have a Discord. Check out the server in the link in the description. Story 2. Not so creepy, just more sad. Was at my local pub a while back and a young woman came and sat down with me. She was obviously drunk already, but while entertaining her small talk, she kept trying to steal my pint, which I didn't let happen. Over the course of about 15 minutes, she still tries to go after my pint, then keeps asking me to buy her a drink. I declined. Then offered to service me for a drink. Definitely declined. Then started to get upset with me and told everyone near that I was her boyfriend and was being a jerk and violent. Luckily, it's my friend's pub. We called her a cab and sent her on her way. She wandered back in 15 minutes later and started the same routine with a different man sitting a few stools down from me. A man who, by the way, had witnessed the previous incident. OP's right, this one is just kinda sad. I think this just means she's an alcoholic? That's no good, which is, I guess, putting it lightly. Story 3. I'm a girl, but my ex-best friend belongs in this post. The reason why I stopped hanging out with her is because of her treatment of the men in her life. As someone who is in an abusive relationship, I began to realize that's what she was doing to her boyfriends. Ramona and I had met in class, and she was weird from the start, but I was new to the school and we had a lot in common. One day, we're walking from class, newly discovering what we had in common. I was in the middle of a relapse from my eating disorder and I was way too thin, and I mentioned having issues with food. She was excited and screamed, "You have an eating disorder? I used to have an eating disorder!" Which would be fine if we weren't around everyone on campus. This should have been a red flag, and I later realized she would shout just about anything about herself or other people. She was always really desperate for a boyfriend. It's all she cared about. When we met, she was dating a guy that I never got to meet, but from the sounds of it, he was emotionally abusive. She left him on and off. After she finally left him for real, everything about her got really weird. I wish I could describe how creepy her behavior in general was, but I'm struggling to do so. She would always be talking about how she needs a man in her life, and it was sending her into a depression. She slept with just about every guy that gave her the slightest bit of attention. She told me she has slept with over 50 people when we met, and we were friends for 2 to 3 years, and had slept with at least 30 people in the time frame, so the number must be nearer to 100 now. This doesn't bother me. It's just the fact that every guy she sleeps with, she decides is boyfriend potential, and she gets mad when they don't call her back or turn out to have a girlfriend. She dated a guy for a while and he dumped her on her birthday. I actually feel bad for this guy though because he was a schizophrenic and just couldn't take a relationship anymore. Ramona went to his place to do her freakout thing at him and broke his guitar and other things. He then went to a mental institution and became a tomato from the medications he had to be on. This guy told her up front that he had herpes and she said that it was okay and started sleeping with him. Except then she caught it and she doesn't exactly tell everyone she meets that she has it. Another guy she started seeing thought they were in a casual relationship and he didn't want to continue. Her reaction was to go to his place, convince his roommates to let her in, wait for him to come home, and then scratch her legs up with her hands so badly that she scarred herself. Once we were planning on going out together, so I'm super excited and she's at my house and decides she doesn't want to take a bus. Without asking me, she calls somebody and says, "Hey, come to this address and pick us up." I get out of the shower and I'm like, who the hell did you just call? Just some guy I met at the bar last night. We give her a talking to for coming over to my house coked up and giving a stranger she met yesterday my address. And I get a ride from my boyfriend instead. At her place, some random guy shows up. It's the guy she called earlier. Now I'm hanging out with this guy I don't know while Ramona is on coke. I become a third wheel while she tells this guy things about herself like, I don't brush my teeth every day, which is super awkward. I call my boyfriend to come pick me up because she invited him out on our girls' night. She later tells me she did this because she needed a guy to hook up with at the end of the night. I ended the relationship with her the day she was supposed to be at my house and didn't show up. Not an uncommon occurrence, because she's selfish and never gave a crap that maybe you had things to do other than wait around for her. She finally answers and says something along the lines of, I'm so sorry I can't come over today. My mom is driving me back from city because I went to Guy's house and punched him in the face. Trust me, he deserved it. OP's friend, or ex-friend, sounds like they need a good trip to a therapist. Or maybe 20. 20 trips, by the way, not 20 therapists. That would be strange. This isn't some Goodwill Hunting scenario. But really, it sounds like she just has some deep-seated issues that could be worked through. Of course, I guess the first step is recognizing that she has those issues, and she doesn't sound like she's going to do that anytime soon. But I hope she does at some point and manages to get better. Story 4. This happened about 6 months ago. I was drunkenly swiping through Tinder and matched with a relatively cute girl who had mutual friends both from our college and from our high school, but I had never met or seen her before. I proceed to casually message her with some of my usual flattering pickup lines, not thinking too much about it. We send maybe 10 or so messages before I passed out in bed. The next day, I woke up and realized that my beer goggles were definitely on the night before, because the Tinder girl was a beast. Think of a female Gary Busey who participated in chicken wing eating contests every weekend. So, of course, I did not message her and went on with my day as usual. I got home at around 9 p.m. and decided to take a quick 20-minute nap. The quick nap soon turned into a 5-hour sleep. It was now 2 a.m. and my phone was dimly lit, showing I had 5 unread texts from a number I did not recognize. The text messages went as followed. Hey, what are you up to tonight? Hey, are you there? Are you ignoring me? Really? After the night we had last night? I bet if I came to your apartment, you'd have to talk to me. So at this point, I'm on the verge of producing a lot of crap from my bunghole, both as a defensive technique, as well as crapping myself at the thought that if this girl was capable of getting my number, there's no reason she wouldn't be able to procure my address as well. I jump out of bed, use my phone light to scan the room, checking every corner and underneath my bed for signs of life. Nothing. Still panicking, I grabbed the closest object next to me and used it as a weapon. A lavender-scented Febreze spray bottle, aka a desperate man's pepper spray. So now with the Febreze in hand, I quietly open my bedroom door and point the nozzle left to make sure the coast was clear. As I turn to the right to do the same, my heart drops. I see a horrible sight. The front door is unlocked. At this point, the crap is now resting against my anus in preparation for explosive diarrhea. But still, I can't tell if Tinder Girl is bluffing, so the house search continues. I walk down the dimly lit hallway, pointing the Febreze bottle around each corner. I pass the closet, the kitchen, and now I'm approaching the living room, when I see a bluish light reflecting off the walls. It was coming from the TV. Did I leave the TV on when I went to take my nap? If so, why was it on mute? My crap now begins to move further through my bowels. I'm freaking out now and not thinking logically. My only thought is that I need to confirm that there is another human in the house before I can call the police. I'm now standing at the corner of the hallway next to the living room. I can see the TV is on, but I can't see the couch where a person would be sitting. Too scared to turn the corner, I take out my phone and call the person who sent me the 5 text messages. I turn down the volume almost all the way as I stand there and wait for the call to connect. My phone eventually connects and makes the first ring, and then I hear it. I hear the sound that still haunts me to this day, the original iPhone ringtone, and it's coming from the living room. I stand there in shock, not knowing what to do next. Tinder Girl found out my phone number, my address, and is now sitting in my living room. The phone rings again before Tinder Girl ends the call. I then hear movement on the leather couch and hear her take a step towards the hallway. My brain goes into overdrive as my crap begins to prairie dog out of my butt. This girl is walking into my room. Inside my head, I see a coin flip end over end, with the word fight on one side and flight on the other. She takes another step. The coin is still flipping. Another step. The coin hits the ground and is spinning. Another step. She's right around the corner now. The coin lands and I read the words written on top. Fight. Another step. I can see her shoe and hand around the corner. I make my move and lunge in her direction, Febreze bottle still in hand. She takes another step and makes eye contact with me for a split second. She has time to let out a high-pitched scream as my shoulder connects with torso. I tackle her to the ground and wrestle her onto the floor, spraying lavender-scented Febreze into her eyes like a madman. The wrestling feels like it takes a lifetime, but in reality, I had her pinned within a few seconds. I point the Febreze bottle at her face. She's crying now, desperately trying to rub her eyes. I don't budge and start screaming questions at her. I don't remember everything I asked her, but I do remember asking over and over why she was in my apartment, and how did she get my address or phone number, etc. She sobbingly tells me she just wanted to meet me and hang out, but saw I was sleeping, so she was waiting until I woke up to be nice. In complete shock and awe of her response, I finally grab my phone and call the police. As I wait for the police to show, Tinder girl is hysterically crying, telling me how she just wanted to be boyfriend and girlfriend and have the perfect family and all kinds of bat crazy crap. Eventually, the police come and separate us. They don't cuff her immediately, but after I explained what happened and showed my proof, they arrested her and took her lavender-smelling butt into a cop car. So yeah, that was my creepy girl story. I believe she got my phone number by messaging a mutual friend on Facebook and asking for it, but I'm still unsure how she was able to find my address. All in all, I was probably never in any real danger, but the thought that she had gone as far as to walk inside my house and wait for me was enough to spook me into never using Tinder again. Bravo, OP. This story is insane. And OP must be a creative writer or something because, I give it a 10 out of 10. It's beautiful writing. The creepiness, I could feel it in the words. This post, though, also reads like a Scared Straight episode for Tinder. Like the dangers of online dating or something. Story 5. I experience intense creepiness every other Saturday. Every other Saturday, I go for drinks with my mom and sisters at my mom's favorite bar. The bar's regulars are 40-somethings, and I'm usually the youngest / best dressed / best looking dude there. Not hard to be when all the other dudes are old and sad. Anyway, I get stared at like I'm a piece of meat. They wink at me and try to dance near me. A few bad experiences there. Drunken, fat, ugly old lady gets up and tries to dance cute for me, while I'm sitting in a chair awkwardly trying to avoid her. You look just like a young Johnny Cash. I love Johnny Cash. Then she went outside and puked. One night, this lady, who was super nice and polite the whole night, decided that she wanted to grab my dong. I'm coming around the corner and she pins me to the wall and just grabs me. Then she freaked out like I'm the jerk for telling her to get her frickin' hands off me. The worst, though? Old lady, rude, drunk, loud, wearing a short skirt and no panties. Kept on waiting for me to glance over, then she would open and close her legs and wink at me. Her kitty looked like a melted piece of week-old pizza. So, next Saturday, we're gonna try something else. Edit. Okay, looks like you guys are enjoying stories of me being harassed by older women, so here's a few more. I'm sitting down at a table waiting for everyone else to arrive. A few ladies show up and the ringleader of this wave of hot flashes makes sure she stands out. She's a short, chubby, sweaty woman. She's wearing a pink tutu over the top of her way too tight clothes. And adorning this princess of class is a plastic tiara with 2 little rubber dongs. She scans the bar like the frickin' Terminator looking for John Connor and sets her sights on me. Target acquired. Initiate. Frisky. I had to try so hard to keep my cool that night. I didn't want to ruin her night, but I wasn't about to make her night either. Another story? We have a usual server. She's a sweetheart, great at her job, and she's always got a new joke. So one weekend when we showed up, she wasn't there. I was pretty upset. We had this new server, an older lady, and she was good at first until she started drinking. If you've never experienced an older lady with tig ol' biddies hitting on you, allow me to paint you a picture. Imagine having a conversation with your family and suddenly feeling a warm blob on your shoulder as if someone tossed a ball of warm, mushy ground beef at you. Then looking over and realizing it's a breast. Imagine finishing your wings, and as you put your last bone on the plate, a hand immediately touches yours and you barely hear, "I've got this, hun," over the smell of vodka and cranberry juice. Imagine a low-cut shirt and 50-year-old fat breasts in a 30-year-old bra. Then imagine that torso being bent over in front of you and the breasts squishing up against the table looking like disgusting gerbils trying to escape their sweaty, saggy flesh prison. Imagine making the mistake of looking at that and having it happen again and again for the rest of the night, until the gerbils have finally been released from their prison to hang carefree. Yeah, we complained to the owner and left. Thankfully, never saw that hot mess again. Look, I'll be honest, I'm a big proponent of treating women respectfully in general, like no unsolicited advances, basically. Just don't harass people, it's simple. But I'm also a proponent of that goes both ways. I don't think anyone should have to feel uncomfortable because strangers are coming on to them. A lot of the time, people are out just, especially if they're with family, just to have a good time. They're not looking for anything, and they're definitely not looking for you. And when I say you, I do specifically mean the older women described in these stories. Not you, I'm sure you're great, but treat people with respect. Story 6. I was out in San Fran for GDC a few years back. Stayed in a hostel with a whole bunch of my classmates since it was cheaper than a hotel. Few nights we were hanging out in the common room playing drinking games and meeting people from around the world. However, there was this older Asian woman who would float from group to group trying to join in and steal a beer or two. No one really complained at first. On the third night, 5 of my buddies and 4 of these Aussies decided to play King's Cup. Well, the Asian lady joined and we tried to be nice and teach her the game. She pulled a king, which is rule master. We explained the rule and gave her some examples. Must have your drink in hand at all time, laugh a certain way, no eye contact, etc. She takes a few seconds to think and looks directly at me and says, "Take off your pants." I just sit in disbelief and my buddy right away starts laughing. One of those Aussie chicks explains it doesn't work that way. The Asian woman then starts yelling other things at me, like show me your butt, let me see your dong, give me a dance. At this point, I'm trying to laugh it off, but I'm super embarrassed too. We ended up kicking her out of the game and then she was kicked out of the hostel the next day because she was found to be sneaking into other people's rooms at night. Yeah, I don't think she understood that rule. I don't think she understood it at all. Story 7. This happened to me when I was 16. I worked at a grocery store and my first day on the job, this girl, who I only said 3 sentences to, handed me a note before she left for the day and told me not to read it until she was gone. Well, I thought a note was a bit weird because that's like grade school stuff, but whatever. I opened the note and it says things like, "I love you. I want to be with you. We need to have children together even though we're both only teenagers." And it prattled on and on. Overly attached girlfriend has nothing on this chick. So the next day at work, she asks sheepishly if I've read her note. And I said, yes, but I wasn't really looking for a relationship at the time. Her face lost all expression for a second, and then she smiled and said something to the effect of, "No worries, I thought I'd try." And we continued on working. That night when I left work, there were about 50 notes taped to my Jeep. Long ones, too. I have no clue how she wrote this much in a day. The notes said things like, "I hate you. You're a frickin' jerk. I hope you die." And other notes said things like, "I'm sorry for writing that note that called you a jerk. I really like you and want to be with you, less than 3. She would then try luring me with innuendos. When she was on her lunch break, she would do things like buy these huge dill pickles that we sold, making sure to come through my line, and say things like, "Do you think this pickle is for lunch or personal pleasure?" Ugh. She would also still put notes all over my Jeep. Eventually, after a few months, she lost interest in me and started chasing a new guy that started. I don't get why you'd have to apologize for writing a note with another note. Just take the note off. Like, I'm assuming these are sticky notes. You put them on and you're like, I didn't like that one. You just take it off. You don't have to leave it there. Although I guess when it comes to logic, that doesn't really enter the mind of someone who's doing something like this, does it? Anyway, mildly horrifying. Moving on. Story 8. A girl I knew from class got my phone number somehow. I didn't give it to her and started texting me incessantly. Constantly asked me to hang out, no matter the time or day. Now, though I wasn't particularly fond of her, I didn't want to be rude, so I would make excuses. I once told her that I had lots of family over, so I was too busy to hang out with her. 10 minutes later, I get a text. It was a picture of my empty driveway at my house. She found out where I lived, drove to my house, and took a picture to prove that I was lying. I came outside to tell her that I didn't have time and that she should go home. She refused to accept this, going so far as to sit in front of my door, not allowing me to go back into my own home. I walked around the house, went in a back door, and texted her that I never wanted her to contact me again. She sat there for about 20 minutes before she left.